My name's Clive Balchin and I'm the UKIP candidate for Rossendale and Darwin. I'm just doing a short video to explain to people the reasoning why I'm standing and some of the things I believe in. It's a bit of a unusual approach to people, but basically I and UKIP don't have the money and resources that the Conservative and Labour Party candidates do. So I'm trying to communicate via social media. Right, why am I standing? I've been involved in Valley politics or Rossendale politics for about the last 20 years, and I've become very disillusioned with both national politics and the Conservative Party in particular. They've got some really nice people that are members who I'd like to think of when all this is over will still be friends. But I'm just got no time at all for the ruling political elite that we're stuck with at the moment. So I could have just sat back and thought, blow it, growled at it all and thought, you know, what happens, happens. But I've decided to actually stick my head out above the parapet and do what I can to get elected. I suppose my main concerns are I'm fed up with 2.5 party politics. I'm fed up with career politicians who are very grey people who sometimes you listen to them and I have to think to myself, what part are they from? And the common sense seems to have gone out of politics as well. So my main focus will be as a constituency MP, and that's bringing business into the constituency and also making sure that at Westminster we get our fair share of what's going to happen. I think I've always been, and perhaps this is the egotistic bit of me, I've always been very good at helping people. You know, the people in life that perhaps get a problem, come up against authority and don't know how to handle it. I like doing stuff like that. I like sticking up for people and working hard for people, because people do get beaten by the system. Now, you know, that's fine words, and I won't win in every single case, but that's one of my main intentions. The other thing I'm quite strident about is political reform. Whilst I'm all for some tradition, I think we've got to bring everything into the 20th century and be a very modern government. I'm not in it for change's sake. I'm in it for positive change that does make things better for people. I've received feedback from people that I've been discussing things with that I'm perhaps a little bit light on detail. I think the reason I'm light on detail in some ways is that I try to be very honest about what I'm going to do, and if I come up with grandiose plans like, well, I'm not being unfair, but my rivals do, you know, of what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and then when they're elected they don't do anything, that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I want to really state what I think I can do and what I can achieve. But with regards to Europe, I don't foam at the mouth about Europe. I can't say as I'm happy with what what it's become, this European Union. I just think it holds us back. So my main thrust on that really is that we should, as soon as possible, have a referendum. You know, let's get the thing out in the air and see what we achieve from there. The other thing that comes to bash UKIP on the head all the time, I mean, I've got to say UKIP is a young party, and it's making mistakes. There's no two ways about it. You know, the Conservative and Labour parties have been established for decades and decades and decades, and they've made all their mistakes. I believe that UKIP is young. It's a fresh party, but like any young thing, it drops clangers every now and again. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a racist. that's a fact. But you know, it's such a difficult thing to discuss. But when it comes to immigration, all UKIP is looking for is a points-based system. You know, we're all happy to go to America and Australia that operate these kind of systems, so why not do the same in this country? And you know, you earn enough, you qualify for enough points, and you come to the UK. With the open door policy we've got at the moment, things are just getting a tad out of hand. Perhaps not here in Rossendale and Darwin at the moment, but certainly much further down south, things are at a breaking point. I can understand people wanting to come to this country. If you live in a country where it's virtually third world and you hear all these wonderful things about Great Britain, I can understand it. But all I'm asking is that it has to be controlled. The NHS, another one that some of my opponents keep banging on about. UKIP has no plans whatsoever to privatise the NHS. All UKIP is trying to say is that we've got to be really, that's the best way of putting it. The NHS was set up in 1947 and was a relatively, or was intended to be, a relatively simple service. You know, it was for broken legs and TB. The population was 40 million, and the average age for a man was 64, and the average age for a woman was 68. Now here we are 40, 50 years later. We have a population of 60 million. The average age for a man is in the mid-70s and a woman in her late 80s. And more importantly, the massive advances in surgical techniques, in drugs, have meant that, you know, where if you were walking down the high street a few years ago, you would have you'd have fallen over with a heart attack, and that would have been it. Luckily now you fall over on the street and there's defibrillators coming at you left, right and centre. And the NHS just wasn't set up for that. So I'm all for it, and I think we've got to continue with it, but politicians have got to be honest about how it's paid for. That's the problem. Now in my world, I would take the politics, if it was possible, I'd take the politics out of the NHS, because I think you get, each political party has its own spin on it, and every 5-10 years they have a major change again, which is so disruptive to the NHS. And the other major thing that I would do, which I think there are coming some moves towards it now, is combining the National Health Service and social care. This is going to happen in Manchester, and I'd like to think that it will happen throughout the rest of the country.